Hey, movie fans, and welcome back to another episode of the Uncharted Media Podcast. This is episode 150. One of the big Milestar would be a good superhero name now that I think about it, Milestar. But milestones for us, and to commemorate it, Josh and I did something together. And we're going to talk about our experiences together this week as Josh made the long trek down to Florida, and we finally went to HHN together. And that's what we're going to talk about to commemorate Spoopy season. We're going to talk about Halloween Horror Nights Orlando 2021/30 years, 30 fears. Josh, you tired from your trip?
I'm actually not as tired as I thought I was going to be. I got in at about 10:30 last night, so I was able to get plenty of sleep and whatnot. But yeah. Dude, we didn't even intentionally plan this for like a 150 episode like that. So, or did you? You did it, didn't you? You counted.
You took a week off a few weeks before, like about a month or two ago, which really screwed up the calendar. But I didn't want to tell you that. I was thinking of us doing something, but it would have been last week when we probably would have been able to do something together. But I'm always conscious of the calendar.
Yeah, no, I like that though. This is a good episode to do for our 150th. Yeah, no, I'm not tired at all. I'm good. I'm sipping yet another bang out of my 30 years of 30 fears freestyle Coke cup.
Not sponsored.
Not sponsored that we got from HHN, but yeah, man, it was a good trip. Solid. I can't wait to talk about it.
Yeah, so that's what we're going to do today is we're going to go over the movie news, and then Josh and I are going to basically go down our full rundown, our full experience of the event this year. It's a really good event this year. It's a lot of fun, as it is every year, and I'm always happy to indoctrinate others into the religion that is HHN, because we'll get into it more, but Josh just stands there dumbfounded for the first couple hours, and that just brings me joy seeing people experience the wonders that is HHN.
It was cool, man. Like without getting too deep into it, like literally the first 4 hours, because we were there. I was told my mom how long we were there, and she was like, 9 hours. Like, yeah. So like the first 4 were me literally sitting there, just standing around, just like with my jaw open, just blown away. Because like this is not only my first time to HHN, it's my first time to Universal Park in general, like period. So like it was an experience to say the least. It was pretty cool. Yeah.
And then also, this is one of the only times that I know what Josh has been watching because I was there with him. So yeah. Josh and I, we went to HHN Thursday night, and then Friday night, Josh, myself, and my wife Heather, we all saw Halloween Kills.
Cool.
Of the 3 of us, no one enjoyed it more than me because no one's more of a Halloween sweaty than me.
Yeah.
But I think all of us at least walked away okay with it. I think the one that probably enjoyed it the least is probably Heather, because I warned her going into it that it was going to be pretty intense.
Yeah.
And she's not a big gore person, but she, primarily just from being around me for so long, I think has so much time and investment in the Halloween franchise more than any other horror franchise that she's like, I gotta know how these shape up.
Yeah.
So she's like, no, of course you're not going to see that without me. So I think by the end of the day, I think she did like it just wouldn't be on her favorites list, which I think is kind of the general consensus of all 3 of us is it's good, but probably doesn't crack the top tier Halloween sequels like 2 or 4 or H2O. I don't have nearly as much of an issue as some other people do. This film is very divisive for some people, which I can get, but at the same time, for a middle part of a movie, for a middle part of a planned trilogy, I didn't think it was really that bad. Primarily just because my jaw was still on the floor from the first 10 to 15 minutes of pure happiness. Because
that first 15-20 minutes is incredible. I don't want to ruin it for nobody, so I don't want to drop no spoilers just because it did just come out in theaters. But first 15 minutes absolutely incredible. From a storytelling standpoint, and really from a technical standpoint, I think was more what was blowing us away, was that first 15 minutes. But yeah, so kind of felt the same. It's good. It's nowhere near my favorite. I can see there's certain things they do story-wise, or I don't think that they go as far as they need to, and I think there's sometimes a couple of the kill scenes go maybe just a little too far, but it's also those kill scenes are also like balanced in the way that like um they never make you go in like previous slashers. At no point are you like, "Oh, that was a cool kill." It's all almost always, especially in this film, like, "Oh no, I really like those characters. Why did you? They didn't deserve that." Blah blah blah. And like honestly, making you hate Michael more for the slasher that he and murderer that he is, instead of like, he's my favorite serial killer, which I've always hated that phrase. But yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. I will say one of my like just the more I think about it, just I'm not a big fan of how the final kill was executed. I'll say that it's a very critical thing for the story going forward, but that I felt could have used a couple more minutes. The movie just kind of ends, and I think there's some shots in the trailer that were missing from the movie that I really could have used that I think would have ended the movie on a better cliffhanger, because make no mistake, this does end on a cliffhanger. But what I'm appreciating is, at least from everything I'm seeing online, whether people like this movie or hated this movie, we can all agree that the best thing about this movie are Big John and Little John. They're fantastic.
Yeah,
I love
absolutely.
those guys.
It was so funny too because we were walking into the theater and like, okay, what's the things we'd love to see in this? And you literally said, "Well, we haven't had a gay couple in a Halloween
Not any
movie
representation at all.
Yeah, really at all." And then like literally within like 20 minutes, we're like, "Hey!"
Big John, Little John.
Oh,
But also,
they're the
I think
best.
it works because even if Big John and Little John were a straight couple, their dynamic is still really, really funny. And also, if I'm in a haunted house, I know how to now proceed of checking to make sure everyone in my party's still alive. I was like, okay, that's pretty clever. And also,
So
I
good.
basically forced Josh to finally watch Hell House LLC. And Josh had about as much of a reaction to it as I thought. Josh, Hell House, thoughts?
It's cool. I think it's definitely sets a very specific benchmark as far as found footage films goes and how they incorporate the footage. Like I might be one of the first times I've seen a found footage film that actually gives us a legitimate reason on why we are seeing the footage, not necessarily like in Chronicle, like you're seeing the footage because it's all filmed, but you don't understand who's quote unquote who's watching it. Whereas this is presented documentary style, and it's like, okay, well, and even to the point reveals who the editor of the documentary is, so you know who's giving you the footage, and that's part of the story, and that was cool. The scares are solid. The ambiance is great. But again, I think every time I go back and think about it, it's still the characters. The character logic is, I think, to me, the weakest point. Especially now that you and I have kind of have discussed it. I've gone back outside of the two videos you showed me and kind of done more digging as far as the lore in the next two that those reveal. And I still think that the main two guys that are running Hell House, like, it all depends on whether they knew or not what they were getting themselves into. Because if they did, that's kind of like, okay, I'll let it slide. But if they didn't, it makes them like truly stupid.
Yeah,
So,
which I've tried to put up some of, I think there might be some outside interferences, but even then, yeah, they're pretty dumb. But as a whole, I think Hell House has some of my favorite scares that I've seen in horror movies in recent memories. Josh doesn't enjoy clowns particularly, so this is right up my alley for watching him watch a movie.
Yeah, I think too though. I think one of that whole every single clown scare that's in this movie, is, while I did get like good jumped on that. I love that scare. I think it adds a level of stupidity to the characters, unfortunately, that is hard to ignore. Because, like, God, the only other thing, and I mentioned this before we got on this morning, so on the drive up, I listened to the Audible of The Sorcerer's Stone for the first book of Harry Potter, and then this morning went and watched the movie. Um, I hate myself because the whole reason I did that was to be like, you know, I want to prove all these people wrong that are like reading the book and then watching the movie and complaining like that. It can't be that bad. And then like even in the Sorcerer's Stone, I was like, wait, no, you're missing. No, don't skip that part. Wait, hold on.
Welcome to every Harry Potter fan's struggle.
I will say though, specifically with the Sorcerer's Stone, the opening third they skip over a lot and rush through a lot, but I think a part of that's a tribute to the fact that there's a lot of really subtle acting that would need to happen, and this is Daniel Radcliffe's literally his first movie ever, so there's a little bit of like he's not necessarily capable of acting to the level that they need, but also the back third of the movie changes things that aren't from the book, but I think it changes it for the better. I think the back third of the movie is better than the back third of the book.
Yeah, we didn't need that potion room for one of the final challenges.
It was cool, but also the change they do to the key room is nice. I think it does add a little sense of danger. I think the only thing I would have changed about the back third is actually have the Queen actually hit Ron, so to knock him out. Otherwise, it just looks like Ron, you just fell like a klutz, dummy.
Yeah, I've always thought he was just being overly dramatic in that scene.
Yeah, but it is what it is. I do like it makes more. There's a lot of stuff they do in the movie on the back third that just makes more sense. Yeah, sorry, I didn't want to hold it up. I just share that.
Josh is just discovering Harry Potter for the first time, really.
Yeah. Well, not like I've seen all the movies, but like never paid attention. I don't know. You know what I mean? Oh, it's been a lot. A lot's changed since the last time I watched them. So.
Let's get into some news, shall we?
Yeah.
So the big event that apparently is divisive this year is DC Fandome, which I was surprised because, at least for the two of us, Josh and I really enjoyed Fandome. Yeah. But then again, I think the people that are the most upset with Fandome may have gone in with false assumptions of what the event was. I think some people were expecting, like, earth-shattering, huge news to come out of this event this year, like a Man of Steel 2 or James Gunn's Justice League. I'm like, well, if you look at what we got last year, it was like a celebration of all things DC, and that's exactly what this was. I know some people were just like, well, why did Stargirl get a long thing, or Supergirl get a long thing, and Ezra Miller's The Flash just get a minute and a half? I'm like, because they're celebrating all DC stuff, not just the stuff that the diehard comic book fans want to see. Like, this is for everything. Or one of the weird complaints I've heard is, why do they spend so much time on the fan art? You and I love the fan art. It's a celebration of the fans. It's a fan event. Now, one criticism that I do kind of agree with is, other than the host Tiffany Smith, the rest of the presenters were a bit stiff and a little bit uncomfortable, but I'm getting the sense that English might not have been their native language, so I'll absolutely give them a pass for that. So let's go over some stuff, because there was still plenty of stuff to come out of Fandome. I'm trying to think of just where to start with this. Let's start with the video games. We got 2 trailers, one for Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League and Gotham Knights. Not going to be any surprise which one I'm more excited for, but Josh, of the 2 of those, from what we saw at Fandome, are you more excited for Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League or Gotham Knights?
I think I'm still more excited for Gotham Knights, but I think this trailer for Justice League, for Suicide Kills the Justice League, I think this trailer is way better than the first one, and kind of gives me more of a reason to get excited for it, whereas the other one was really vague, and I don't know. But the fact that we now know the story of the adventure of the Gotham Knights, I think kind of is hard to ignore, of how excited both you and I are. And I think you pointed out to me after that panel, It's really interesting that movie comes out after the Batman. Oh, so that game comes out after the Batman.
We're assuming because they haven't set a release date and this project's been delayed numerous times.
That's fair. That's fair. I'll give you that. But yeah, I'm definitely more excited for Gotham Knights. But that's not a knock on Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League either, because it looks good. I forget. I found out who was voicing King Shark, and it was really cool. And I don't remember who the casting was, but yeah, there's King Shark is cool. I like the ending scene of the trailer. They're like, "Oh, Waller, yeah, he's running. You gotta zap him," and they zap him the first time. Oh no, he's getting up, zap him again, and he's still out cold. It's great. It's good.
Yeah, I'm more excited for Gotham Knights too, just because I think we get more of a centralized story out of it. Like I still don't know what the story is for Suicide Squad. Like we can kind of imply that Brainiac has taken over and he's taking control of the Justice League, but I like the idea of the Court of Owls as a video game character more than I like the idea of Brainiac.
Yeah.
As much as I want to see Brainiac someday in a live-action form, primarily in a Superman or Justice League movie, like I think Court of Owls lends themselves so well, and I just like the mood and the atmosphere that we've gotten so far from the Court of Owls in Gotham Knights more. Like the Suicide Squad kind of just feels like a fun, not party game, but like co-op game, whereas Gotham Knights feels much more very specific tone, feels much more Batman in tone. But there's no way Batman is dead. Like they're gonna keep telling us this, just like Rocksteady told us the Arkham Knight is not Jason. It's not Jason. It's not Jason. We're all just going, sure, Jan. But yeah, the final boss in this is absolutely gonna end up being Batman, isn't it? Yeah, Batman as a Talon.
Oh come on! Like let's go. To Arkham Knight's credit, you refused after you played it through it before I did. And you refused to tell me who the Arkham Knight was, and so I was like, fine, I'll play through it. And like within the first I think it was like two or three lines of dialogue, I was like, it's Jason. There's no way it's not. I was like, what? Really?
To which Josh and I will still argue to this day that I don't think Arkham Knight's as bad of a game as he makes it out to be. Yes, the tank combat is annoying. But my main issue is Jason has never been mentioned before in any of the Arkham games whatsoever. So to basically just give his entire backstory, history, and resurrection all within one game. Also, I'll openly acknowledge that I'm still a little jaded because for years I was convinced that it was going to be Tommy Elliott's Hush, which I think would have been because they set that up in Arkham City.
Yeah, to your credit, it's like it's a pretty big side quest in City. So like it was weird that it just didn't
and they
go
completely
anywhere.
Wasted Hush in Arkham Knight.
Yeah,
like they gave like basically a 1 point, like just one quick stop side mission. It was super, super annoying. But I'm excited for both games.
Yeah.
Trying to think if there's anything announced like non-film wise that we're interested in. Titans is getting a season 4. Doom Patrol's getting a season 4. I thought it was cool that they're just like, here's the trailer for Young Justice. Oh, watch the first 2 episodes now. I'm going,
yeah,
that was cool.
That was cool.
I wish we liked the first 2 episodes a lot more than we did. So immediately after Fandome wrapped, Josh and I just hopped on HBO Max and watched the first 2 episodes of Young Justice Phantoms. And they are things that exist. I'll say that.
They're definitely setting up for something, but
they better be.
It's a slow burn. It's a slow burn right now.
But also, like, I'm used to Young Justice having a big cast, and so having it just focus on McGann, Connor, and Beast Boy is fine. But the fact that we don't see like anybody else at all in a place that's so foreign. With, frankly, a lot of complicated names and characters that we've never met before.
Yeah.
And also, it was slight variations, but you do notice the animation style changing. Like, pretty drastically from the last season. Not a huge difference, but if you've been watching all of the first 3 seasons, you know a difference. But then again, changing animation styles midway through your show is nothing new for DC Animation. Looking at you, Batman the Animated Series, whatever that season 4 abomination was.
Oh, we did get news about the new Batman Animated Series that's coming.
Yes, a little bit.
Yeah, And it looks from everything that they've told us about it, it sounds like it's going to be incredible and a true, the quote unquote, the true vision of the original creators. Whatever that means, because as
I
you
wonder
and
if
I
that's a shot at somebody else.
yeah, I mean, it feels like a shot at somebody else, but also like true vision of the creators is not always a good thing. So we'll see what happens here. I'm not as emotionally attached to the Batman the Animated Series as you are, so it'll be interesting to see whenever we get first looks, first episodes, and stuff like that, how you and I will react to that. Technically, I guess Blue Beetle's not film because it's straight to HBO Max.
No, both Bleh. Both Blue Beetle and Batgirl are going straight to HBO Max, and probably Static as well. I'd imagine
whenever they get that settled. Which it was good to hear that they did announce that all those scripts for Icon, for Static are in the works. They're not like they're in the middle of writing them, which is fine. I mean, it's only been a year since they announced.
I didn't think we were getting a script for Icon.
I thought
he was getting his comic. I think Static is the only one. They said that they're working on various projects. They're doing an animated movie for like the Blood Syndicate, I think. One of those Millennium comics. So yeah, they gave brief updates about Blue Beetle and Batgirl. They said Batgirl's going to have her red hair. I'm going, okay, cool. That's all I need. And then like a day or two later, they added some other casting, but didn't say who the role was for. I'm just going, I refuse to let that horse die of who it could be. And if this random casting ends up being Nightwing, I've never heard of this dude, so I'm about to binge literally everything he's ever been in. But that's a bit of a stretch. I actually kind of hope this casting, I forget the actor's name. I'm actually kind of hoping it's her brother of Jim Gordon Jr., the serial killer. I think that would be a very fun twist to do. Let's get into the movies, because there's primarily just two big assets here. But they showed a little bit of Aquaman, which the new Black Manta suit.
Yes.
Black Manta looked great before, but new Black Manta suit, I lost my mind on. Shazam looked great. Not much to talk about there because that's not coming until 2023, which it's weird to me that they showed more from Shazam than they showed for Aquaman or The Flash, which are both coming out next year. But Shazam's wrapped filming already. So
I will say that you and I were caught off guard by the amount of ice. It does seem that we're going to Antarctica instead of the Lost Kingdom in the trenches, which I'm
Aquaman.
super... Yeah, that was awesome.
Aquaman's going to slide into battle on a penguin like Aang.
Don't tempt me with that. That sounds that shouldn't sound awesome, but it sounds awesome.
Aquaman's going to fight a polar bear.
Or ride a polar bear. No, this isn't the Golden Compass. Wow, that's a reference I never thought I'd pull out.
Yeah.
Wow. But yeah, a lot of that stuff looks really good. We totally just skipped over the little teaser for Black Adam.
Oh, yeah, we did.
Wow.
Because I remember when the Black Adam panel was happening, however brief it was, The Rock has been saying for what feels like forever that he's like, the hierarchy of the DC universe is about to change. And all of us are just going, yeah, that's cute. Whatever. You keep saying that if your movie ever going to come out. And then we get a little, like, intro clip. He's like, this is more or less the beginning of our movie. And oh my God, dude, the hierarchy of the DC universe has just changed. Because Black Adam basically, like, this team of spelunkers that find this cave. Someone's Shazam and someone's Black Adam. He grabs this guard by the throat and basically just disintegrates him.
Disintegrates him. It's so cool. And it definitely at that moment, that was the moment. First of all, first kind of like glimpse at the suit too, which looks super good. Even
I like
with
the hood.
Yeah. I'm like, the hierarchy of power is shifting. And holy cow, Barry's going to die. Barry's going to get... Barry? No.
Billy.
All these
Barry is the Flash.
All these B names, bro. Barry, Billy, Bruce. gosh.
Where's there a Bruce in DC? Oh.
Wow.
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good. I'm just signing off.
Okay, you good, bud?
I don't know why, but Bruce, my mind immediately went to the Hulk instead. I'm going, there's no Hulk in DC. There's no Bruce. Oh, yeah. Only the biggest cash cow ever.
Yeah. But yeah, no.
Yeah, like, that famous guy, Bruce Clark.
Die. Yeah, Bruce Clark. Kent. Yeah, I love Bruce Kent. He's a cool dude. Oh, man. But yeah, like, great teasers for all three. Like, beside the Aquaman and Shazam were definitely more like behind the scenes kinds of stuff, which I didn't mind. I was like, that's fine, whatever. So save the teaser for. They're obviously not ready, and I think that kind of drops us into the Flash teaser quite well because, first of all, before we get to the teaser, I don't know what Ezra Miller is wearing. But I appreciate that he was like, look, we don't have much to show you.
Proceeds to show a minute and a half of the movie.
Yeah.
See, I like more of the, we don't have much to show you as we're currently filming here. This is our set. He's like super awkward. Here's our set.
This is our set. It's all black behind him. It's so great. But yeah, it's... obviously, they're still editing and stuff like that. They're not still filming, unless they're doing reshoots that we're not aware of. But they're not. I thought they finished filming.
Yeah,
recently.
they've wrapped.
Yeah. So, and then proceeds to show like a minute and a half of like footage I did not think we were gonna ever see. Yeah, and now I'm ready for the Flash movie. Nathan, you want to tell us what we saw in that teaser trailer that we didn't have?
So you don't want to? You want me to tell you were wrong?
Yeah, I know.
So
giving you that opportunity, buddy.
For months, I have been telling Josh, and for you at home, I've been telling you guys. I bet you anything we're getting a Flash ring in this movie, and Josh is like, we're never getting a Flash ring. Boom! We got a Flash ring in this trailer.
And like, there's no way of denying what it is either.
No.
Like, it's right there, front and center,
with the Flash logo on it.
Like, there is no way denying what it is.
I know some people. There's a close-up shot of Flash in his new suit, like looking at something, and people are like, "Oh, what up with the cowl?" I don't think it's a problem. I think it's the angle, because angles and lighting really make all the difference in the world, and I think that was just at a bad angle, because the shot here that we have for the graphic, that I think the cowl looks perfect on that. Yeah. Like, I think that suit is what Flash has needed, because I have said before, and I'll say it again, the Zack Snyder's Flash suit is one of the worst comic book suits of all time. I hate that thing with every fiber in my being. I hate its muted color palette. The extra armor plating makes no sense for the Flash, who needs to be, fast. And some people be like, well, he was armored in Injustice. Mild armor, not head to toe. And Zack Snyder will be like, well, I wanted it to be whoever did the Flash movie could create their own. I'm like, yes, but Flash has better suits, like starter suits in the comics. Like, look at the Josh Williamson one. He's got a great, like, red Flash shirt with jeans and shoes that he burns through. It almost looks more like Jake Garrick. I hated that suit. But this new suit immediately gets into the conversation for me of one of the best comic suits of all time, just in terms of the Flash is hard to translate. The TV show still hasn't done it yet, although those gold boots look pretty legit. But this looks awesome. Like when we get the head-to-toe shot of what appears to be Barry approaching his mom's house at night, that looks perfect. I know some people are like, why didn't we get more? To whet your appetite, to make you want more, because I appreciate that we didn't see Michael Keaton's Batmobile. I appreciate that they didn't actually show Michael Keaton's Batman. Like, guys, this is still about a year away. Like, this thing is still kind of far out. You don't want everything spoiled for you, like a Sony trailer type of thing.
Yeah.
I of the two major trailers that we're going to talk about today, I like this one better. As much as I liked the Batman's trailer, I think the Batman's teaser trailer was better than what we got at Fandome. But this, considering Josh and I have been very critical of this Flash thing, and we're still kind of about Ezra Miller, this trailer was awesome. I appreciated the musical cues to the Keaton Batman. Just so much stuff that leads to speculation, which sometimes can be really wild speculation. Guys,
Yeah,
I
geez.
highly doubt Red Death is going to be in this movie. Like, y'all are weird with your theories.
I think even saying Zoom is going to be in it is a pretty big stretch. Like, dude. I think at the most, if there is a villain, and that's a big if, I think Eobard Thrawn, Reverse Flash, I think will finally make an appearance here. But
I don't think there is a villain.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think there is a villain. I think it's like you. It's going to be Barry trying to set the timeline back. But I think the important distinction here is I don't know if it's the Snyder Barry that's gonna be this movie's about. So that's what's interesting I think about this is like they do like tap into the idea in this short 1 minute like teaser that potentially the Barry in this movie is not the Barry that we've seen in 2 films. 2 films? 1 film. 2 films.
Yeah, 2 films because he was very briefly in Batman versus Superman.
Is not that Barry, which will be interesting because even in this trailer alone, there's already 2 Barrys, and who's to say that the Barry in our graphic here is our Barry either? So it's going to be. It has the potential to be confusing, but it's exciting nonetheless.
And lastly, we've got a new The Batman trailer. Again, the more we see this movie, the more I just need it to be in my brain as quick as possible because this trailer, while to me not as good as the teaser, not as good as the Flash trailer, the Batman trailer was still outstanding. It gets me so excited, and I still will hold true to it until the movie comes out. I don't think Riddler's the villain. I think he's the mid-level villain before you have your bigger threat that Riddler's trying to expose what this villain is, and I think the trailers have done a very good job of hiding it. I think the trailers are hiding a lot in this movie, which makes me very, very happy. But I'm really digging what we're getting.
Because Batman comes out pretty soon, doesn't it? It's
March
like
4th.
Month. Oh, March. Oh man. I don't
when
know
did you think it was coming out?
I don't know why my brain was saying like next month, but now I'm kind of sad.
No, we still got 136 days.
Yeah, I know. You have the calendar on your phone.
And 123 days till Uncharted.
Unless they move it again. Anyway,
No, we'll talk about that later. They won't.
Yeah, they won't. But yeah, good trailer. It's weird because like saying not as good as the first one is not a knock on it at all. There's still some really, really cool stuff. Every time Batman's shot and he's just like, yeah, okay, what else you got? Is cool. I think the final little scene at the end is the most Batman we've ever Batmaned. Like that is, it still blows my mind. We get a lot of Colin's Penguin in this trailer, and it's like he talks in this one, and it still blows my mind. There's no way that's Colin. There's no way.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to this movie, and I think it'll be amazing.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, some odd news that kind of came out of nowhere was Disney has announced that they're delaying a crap ton of their titles, which include almost all the Marvel movies, and Indiana Jones 5 has been pushed back almost a full year. Now, I thought we were done with delays, but apparently not. So let's look at a full rundown of the delays, shall we?
Do it.
Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness was originally supposed to come out March 25th, is now coming out May 6th. Thor Love and Thunder was May 6th and is now pushed back to July 8th. Black Panther from July 8th to November 11th. And The Marvels has been postponed to early 2023. And Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania has been bumped from February 17th to July 28th, 2023. And Indiana Jones has moved from June of next year to July of 2023. So it almost feels like everything's getting slotted down one movie slot. Like everything gets shifted down. And I don't, frankly, know why. The box office has been improving. Halloween Kills demonstrated that by absolutely just killing at the box office, $50.4 million.
Which is way more than what you and I thought was going to be.
Yeah, I thought the Peacock at home viewing would kill it, because apparently 1.25 million people watched it at home, which is still also impressive. But yeah, Halloween Kills did well. Shang-Chi did well. Eternals is doing really, really well with pre-ticket sales, so you never know. This is an odd decision. Now, there's some DC fans out there, I'm not one of them saying this, but there's some people out there going, they're moving away from Batman because they're scared of Batman's box office. I'm going, Marvel's not afraid of anybody. As much as we're looking forward to the Batman, I don't think that's the factor. I'm trying to figure out what it is.
That's such a dumb, nearsighted thing to say. Like, this is at this point, Marvel can almost guarantee 80 million every movie. Almost
opening weekend, you mean?
Opening weekend, yeah. Like, almost guaranteed every time. So, that's a little. I'll never understand the DC versus Marvel thing. Like, we can enjoy both, guys. It's fine. Yeah, it's weird. I can't put my finger on what would cause it to move it down. Conspiracy theory, maybe, that they have a movie that's done and they're gonna put it in that slot to get it over with. But that's all I can think of that would make any kind of sense.
But then you would need to do advertising. So we're basically going to go from Spider-Man No Way Home in December to that new, was it May release date? May or July for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. So we're going to go several months without a MCU movie. I just don't get the rationale for this one. And it could be just a matter of, since the pandemic has delayed so many things, more and more movies are delayed till 2022, and it's making 2022 very crowded, and so you're just kind of feeling some of the after effects. Like, looking back on it now, Fast and Furious' decision to delay a whole year when the pandemic first hit, or Jurassic World 3's decision to move it all the way to 2022 makes a lot of sense in hindsight.
Yeah.
So maybe they think, I don't know, maybe they just don't think the box office is 100% there yet.
I don't know.
I don't know what it is. But because it's my brain, my thought immediately went to, okay, if all these movies that we know are coming are getting delayed by a couple slots, what you're saying is there's a chance we could get Fantastic Four in 2024.
Oh, stop. Don't do that to me. And release it on March
July
4th.
4th weekend.
Yeah, July 4th. 4/4/24 comes the 4. Like, that's just too good. That's too good to pass up. There's literally not going to be an opportunity to do that, like, for another what is it, century, decade?
Or decade.
No, another century. Yeah, it's weird. I think the idea that they're just seeing how crowded it could get in 2022 and just moving everything down a little bit. If that's the case, hindsight's 2020, so maybe this all makes sense once we get. Yeah, that's so weird. Hindsight's 2020, and it's like we're in 2021. That's so weird. But yeah, who knows? Also, it's not as weird as some of the other stuff coming out of Marvel right now.
What's also weird, and it's kind of going under a lot of mainstream headlines, is because everyone's talking about the delays, they're not talking about the 2 movies that just magically vanished. Because 2 movies got pulled from Marvel's schedule. They were untitled Marvel projects. But 2 of the slots that we talked about a few weeks ago coming out in 2023 are just not on the calendar anymore. So whether those got basically just scrapped entirely, whether they're now going to be Disney Plus releases, whatever's happening there, for some reason, 2 Marvel movies are just falling off the map now. And I think that's kind of bizarre. So Kevin Feige did address this. He's just like, it's just for some production stuff. This all just seems kind of fishy to me, but I don't know what about it smells fishy. It's just something smells off about it. Not like Samoa Joe dropping the title, quote unquote, dropping the title because he's injured, right? when there's a rebrand type of fishy, but like something about this sounds off, but I can't really put my finger on what.
It's like that video that you and I watched about. Oh, geez, it's the filmmaker that has a YouTube channel.
David F. Sandberg.
Yeah, his video about test screenings, about how like somebody can come to you and say, I didn't like this scene, but you can't tell if it's because the scene is poorly written or because the character that dies in the scene and they have an emotional reaction to that. So it's like, well, they know something's wrong, but they don't know what's wrong. So it's, yeah, it'll be interesting, to say the least. Who knows?
Now, this one we're definitely going to have some emotional feelings towards, and I'll say it now. I am not surprised by this news in the slightest, and I feel like I've been saying this for a little bit now. And that's Tom Holland was recently interviewed about Spider-Man No Way Home, and he said they were treating this one like the end of the franchise or the end of an era, which kind of supports my theory that I've had for a little bit that Marvel themselves in the MCU didn't always plan for this movie to be a multiverse movie, and they kind of needed a quick out for Spider-Man.
Yes.
And Tom has said something about, well, if we're fortunate enough to continue the Spider-Man franchise, we would need to be taking a break, and it would come back in a very different incarnation, which gets me very both excited and nervous at the same time. It gets me excited because maybe we could finally stop being so Stark dependent, and he can actually be allowed to be his own character. But at the same time, that could also be interpreted as he'll be in the MCU, kind of, in the sense of he'll be in the larger MCU multiverse, but he'll be now over at Sony type of situation. Like, until a new deal has been made between Disney and Sony, I will still operate under the assumption that at any moment he could be ripped away again. And I think that might be what's happening here. This and there's one other movie on his contract. This could theoretically be the end of Tom Holland's Spider-Man in the MCU, but there's just too much money to be made by taking him out. So I don't know. I'm still very apprehensive about No Way Home. I'm looking forward to it because it's Spider-Man, but I can't help but shake the nervousness that I'm feeling about this, especially hearing this of like, this is the end of our franchise. Now, we've heard rumors of Sony and Marvel want to do a new trilogy together of Peter Parker in college. Cool. You got to come together and make a new deal for that. And to take a break would probably be a good idea, at least for a little bit, so Tom can focus on other things like starting up an Uncharted franchise. But I don't know. It's like all those new like red flag memes that have been popping up all over the place for some reason.
That I've been showing you. Yeah, boy, let's go.
Like this to me is kind of giving me some red flags. Am I overreacting, Josh?
So first of all, who keeps letting Tom Holland be interviewed without?
He didn't spoil anything, at least. He didn't be like, I was hanging out with Andrew the other day. Who's Andrew? Andrew Thomas, our production manager.
Yeah. Oh yeah, like dude, like let's. And now I think because of the end credit scene in Venom, it's even more like likely that at the very least Andrew will show up. But you know, we'll see what happens. I want to take this as this is the completion of the high school Peter Parker franchise. You know what I mean? You know how like we separate the Star Wars Skywalker story into 3 different sections? I want to sit here and say that it is the completion of that section of the story, and that's what he means. And because if that's the case, in order to have a high school teenage Peter Parker, yeah, you would have to come back with different incarnations because now Tom would be too old to play him. Although he does have a baby face. So
I don't know. Ralph Macchio played Karate Kid for all 3 of the first movies, and he was like in his 30s by the time the third one rolled around.
I mean, that's fair, but that's also a movie from the 80s. So, But that's the only way I can rationalize this, that so in a way that doesn't make it sound like Sony's taking Spider-Man back and that's going to be that. Um, it sucks because while I say that, I wouldn't mind Tom Holland's Spider-Man interacting with Tom Hardy's Venom. I do think that would be a cool thing to do, but just taking Spider-Man out of this Marvel universe that they've worked so hard to create just feels like a pretty big loss. They're taking a pretty big L on that one.
Spider-Man to me has always been tricky in the MCU because Kevin Feige has been so meticulous about all of his pieces, but he owns all of his pieces except for Spider-Man. And so I always get the sense that Kevin Feige wants to make Spider-Man a central character of the MCU, because hearing him in interviews, Kevin Feige understands and knows Spider-Man is the guy when it comes to Marvel, just storytelling, Stan Lee's passion. He's like Stan Lee's favorite character. Spider-Man is important to the Marvel pantheon, and I feel like Kevin Feige wants to put a lot of the Marvel universe on Spider-Man's shoulders, but he can't or doesn't want to because one thing goes wrong and Sony doesn't want him to play anymore. They can just pull that Jenga piece out and the whole tower comes crumbling down very, very quickly. A tower that Kevin Feige has spent so much time working on. Supposedly, again, these are just rumors. We're not reporting this as fact by any stretch of the imagination. But supposedly the reason we have not gotten a Spider-Man No Way Home poster yet is because Sony really wants it to be spoiler-filled to get people in butts into seats, whereas Feige and Marvel are more like, no, we want there to be surprises, so, like, don't put certain characters on the poster. Like,
at least the first poster.
But the first poster might be the only poster, because we're coming up on November soon, in which case, once we hit November, movie's coming out next month. Like,
jeez,
we're not that really far away from Spider-Man. Yeah.
And we still haven't gotten, like, a real full trailer yet.
That's like, supposedly coming maybe the 25th.
Yeah, but they've been rumoring trailers for how long? And then we got that weird teaser that was, while cool, was really underwhelming to me. I don't know, man. I'm really hoping this is not the end of Tom Holland's Spider-Man, at least in the Disney universe. If anything, I hope that they allow him to make appearances in the Sony villain saga, is what I guess I'm gonna call it. Excuse me. But yeah, who knows what will happen. I agree with you on, though. It does seem like, especially with how they treat Far From Home, it does seem like Kevin Feige wants to put Marvel on Tom's shoulders, but can't because
legal.
We never know. Yeah, we don't know if he's going to be around.
So normally we don't talk much about Rob Zombie on the podcast here because Josh and I are not big fans of his. I'll bust out Dracula every once in a while. I can jam to that. But movie-wise, I'm not the biggest fan. However, I've always kind of been intrigued by his upcoming The Munsters movie because he is a huge fan of the franchise, and he says he's always wanted to do a modern update of it. Well, now he's working on it, and he's released the first official picture of the set and some of the actors, as we now have Herman. Oh, I forget what the wife's name is. Obviously played by his wife, Sherry Moon Zombie, and the grandpa. And I'll be honest, I don't hate the designs.
Yeah!
I actually think it looks really, really good. Now, I still don't know, and he hasn't really clarified, if this will be basically like just a loving homage / modern retelling, or if it will be a zombie version of the Munsters. Like, will this be... So Eli Roth, known for torture porn and really, really grotesque, gruesome movies, did The House with a Clock in Its Walls, a very family-friendly movie. Martin Scorsese, Gangs of New York, very violent, adult-oriented movies. Did Hugo. Is this Rob Zombie's Hugo? Is this Rob Zombie's A House with a Clock in Its Walls? Or is this just going to be another 31... House of a Thousand Corpses? Is this going to be more like Zombie, or is this going to be more like the Munsters? from this design, I'm actually thinking more the Munsters. I think he might be taking more of a family-friendly approach with this. Now, some people are all up in arms of, oh, once again, he cast his wife. I don't have so much of an issue. She bothers me a lot less than he does. Like, dude, you're a director. You can do whatever you want. Just please make better movies. Because, like, his movies have always struggled with characters to me. Like, Halloween 2, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 is still my least favorite Halloween movie of all time. But my least favorite Halloween scene of all time is when Kid Michael Myers is in the bathroom, like, cutting the wings or getting the feathers off a bird. And he's like, Michael, I'm not listening. Ah! I'm like, oh, God, that's just the worst. But I don't know. I can look at this picture for a while, and I appreciate it, especially the grandpa. I really, really like how the grandpa looks. I think he looks super, super cool.
Yeah.
Josh, were you a Munsters fan growing up?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I grew up on, like Munsters, Leave It to Beaver, like
Heck yeah.
The Griffith Show. Like, those were, like, because, like, we, growing up, I only had basic cable, so, like, those were it was that or the stuff on PBS, which is funny how much you and I make it was really apparent in person how
Wayne's
often we
Word.
made. It was so wild how many times we made Between the Lions references. Like, what? And we had a whole conversation about the cliffhanger hanging off a cliff.
And that's why he's called Cliffhanger.
Yeah, like, that was so cool. Like, that was, like, reached a weird part of my memory that I had forgotten was there. But yeah, no, I like the so far the design is spot on. To the point where I can't tell if the house they're sitting in front of is a Photoshop of the original house, or if that's their new set.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. I like that. I liked how the grandpa looks. All the costumes look good. Yeah, I've kind of been with you as far as we don't know if this is gonna be Rob Zombie's Hugo moment. I sure hope it is, because I think the last thing I want, and the last thing I think the Munsters series needs, and it wouldn't even make sense to make this into like a 31. Like, there's nothing there about it. You know what I mean? There's nothing about the Munsters that would lend itself to doing something like that.
Yeah.
So I really don't think it's possible, but it's Zombie. You never know. 31 has definitely changed my ideas of what Zombie's capable of, and he's capable of a lot. So we'll see what happens.
I think the thing that works in this movie's favor the most is he has said so many times how much of a fan he is and how long he's wanted to do this project. So I expect the attention to detail to be meticulous. Like, as we'll talk about later in our discussion, the people that work on HHN houses are big Horror Nights fans and big horror fans, so they pay attention to the details. This is Rob Zombie's house that he wants to do, basically. This is what he wants to do. He's loved the Munsters forever, so I expect even more so than the movie to be good, I expect the level of detail to be ridiculous, like right down to the smallest little detail. I'm expecting it to be absolutely fantastic, and just from this picture, the tide is starting to shift for me. I'm still not the biggest Rob Zombie fan as a director, but this I'm going, okay, this picture single-handedly at least guarantees that I will watch the trailer and potentially watch the movie. Like, this picture kind of gets me on board, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, if anything, at the very least, I'll watch it once, whether that be in theaters or, on HBO Max or something, who knows. But yeah, it looks good.
Now, something else that looks good was this new horror trailer for Scott Derrickson's The Black Phone. So this just kind of came out of nowhere. I feel like it was only just like a month ago that Scott Derrickson was teasing this upcoming project that he was working on with Ethan Hawke, who he worked on with Josh and I, one of Josh and I's favorite horror movies, Sinister. Movie still keeps us up at night. I love this new trailer for the Black Phone. However, maybe it's just me. Josh, did this movie feel like to you that it was absolutely filmed during the pandemic? Let's focus on two characters that are standing like 30 feet apart from each other with the main character wearing a mask the whole time, probably for safety precautions. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I've talked about this with my wife before of you can clearly tell with like especially television shows, things that were shot during the pandemic era and things that were shot before the pandemic. Like characters are definitely more spaced out now. This feels like it was shot during the pandemic. Not that that's a bad thing, because if you can still deliver the scares like this trailer does, awesome. I just was thinking that the whole time watching the trailer going, interesting that you're having these characters wear masks from very far distances away, and you're only really focusing on a few of them. That being said, I like the premise of this a lot. So for those that haven't seen the trailer, it's basically a kid gets abducted by this dude named the Grabber, who has a fantastic villain design. I love it so much. And he is locked in a room basically with just a black phone and a bed. And he can't dial the phone out, but the phone can call him. And on the phone are the voices of all the victims of the Grabber in the past, and they're basically saying, okay, this is how far I got before he killed me. This is how far I got before he killed me. And so they're all collectively working together to get this one kid that's been grabbed out and to safety. Genius premise. I love the villain design. I will absolutely be checking this out because I really enjoy Scott Derrickson's work. Josh, what did you think of the Black Phone trailer?
Yeah, I'm down. Very interesting premise. I think what's adding to it too is that his friend is getting visions of where he is as well, because she's the one trying to lead the cops to where he is. It's just cool. There's a lot of really interesting stuff. The mask is creepy. It'll be interesting to see, because the one thing that makes me nervous, and it's a lot less these days, but I think if this movie had come out 5 years ago, I would be nervous about this, but having your whole film rest on half of the performances are kids. Literally, like half, if not more than half of the performances in your movie are going to be based on child actors. So there's a little bit of worry in that, but I think because of shows like Stranger Things, because of shows like movies like It, we've kind of started to see a shift in actual legitimate fantastic child actors. So who knows? Maybe my worry is not well placed. But yeah, the trailer's great. I'm probably gonna end up checking it out anyway. So it was good.
And as always, this week's sponsor is brought to you by TeePublic, because they have the Uncharted Media merch. So if you want to get a Uncharted Media shirt, a tinfoil hat theory shirt, because we've got plenty of those now too. Josh has some things in the works that will tease that. If you want any,
don't know about.
Yeah, that makes me nervous. If you want any Uncharted Media merch, TeePublic is the place to go. And yeah, support the show that way. Get a tinfoil hat theory shirt, get an Uncharted Media shirt, get a notebook, get a sticker, do whatever you want. TeePublic is the place to get it. So, Josh, let's talk about our HHN trip, because it was a lot of fun.
It was.
I have been going to Halloween Horror Nights for about 4 years now. My first one was HHN 27 in 2017 because I was working there at the time, which it sucks to work there. As like it doesn't suck. It's just you're there till like 3 a.m. and you have to deal with a whole bunch of drunk people. But the atmosphere is still fun, even working there. That's how I met Roman Reigns, but that's a story for another day. So I got really, really involved and interested in it that year. And so my first house ever was something called Scarecrow the Reaping, which I didn't know until after I got out of the house is like one of the best HHN houses of all time, one of the scariest HHN houses of all time. So I'm just going, I don't know what to expect. I get out of the house like 5 to 6 minutes later. Oh, I can feel my heart.
Oh, yeah.
This is not a regular beat. Like, oh, it was just so much fun. So I've been going every year since. Like, 28 was great. My favorite year of all time is still 29 with Universal Monsters and Graveyard Games. Heather will go with me several times a year. But now, Josh was finally able to come, and I've been trying to get him to come down for years. And so this is the 30th anniversary for Horror Nights. It was supposed to be last year, but, the world caught on fire, so they couldn't do it last year. But Josh, just initial reactions to Horror Nights before we fully delve into this.
Horror Nights, I won't go into like all the other stuff we did there, but like Horror Nights specifically, incredible, absolutely incredible. First time, I think one of my favorite things was seeing because you and I walked the whole park when we got there about 6:30-ish, give or take, whenever the gates opened. And like it's cool. You're like, okay, cool. Like you're gonna scare me later, or like, oh, that's a cool cat.
If it's a little girl, then yes.
A little girl and a little ghost girl in a dress. But like just going around seeing like how everything looks like in the daylight, and you're like, okay, cool. And then coming out of a house later that night that was like pretty I think it was Tooth Fairy. We came out, and then it had kind of finally everything had gone dark, and it was like it's a whole new world, and it's so cool. Like it's a couple of my family members have been asking me about it and like how it was, and like I don't know if this will be like the first time I think I'm gonna be able to find words to describe it, because it is, I think the running theme for you and I was like there's seeing pictures, there's seeing videos, and then like actually going and experiencing it is like an entirely different thing. It was just so cool.
Yeah, I've been explaining to Josh, or trying to explain to Josh why it's so cool for so many years, but words will never do it justice. You can say, oh yeah, the Haunting of Hill House has when you like first walk into it, you see the Hill House. You could say that, but until you see it and realize, oh my god, they actually built a whole side of a building inside of a parade building, you don't fully comprehend it. Good food. I've always said for a while now that Universal has really stepped up their food game. Like, everything we ate, spectacular. Mm-hmm. So how do we want to do this? Do we want to just basically take a lap around the park, or do we want to just give our, like, 10 houses? How do we want to do this?
Let's just explain the 10 houses, and then say which ones are favorites, and then you and I can kind of go over, any, like, of our favorite scare moments of which. Because there was quite a few that got both of us.
Yes.
I was expecting to get got, but that you got several times, and I was like, yes.
I like getting got, but it doesn't happen as often, because after you go through a couple houses, and this happened to Josh too. After you go through a couple houses, you kind of get used to where the scares will come from. You get better at recognizing where the boo holes are, the stuff that you get out of your face when you're going through a new doorway. Like, you're expecting something there, but every once in a while you could still get good scares. So, let's just start our lap around the park, our imaginary lap around the park, so to speak. We went to the right first because I was trying to get us to the back of the park to Pumpkin Lord, which is the best house of the year, but we'll get there. So, first thing we go through Eddie's Lights Camera Haction, which is a scare zone. We went through that initially first really quickly during the day. Still cool, but that one got much better at night, and Josh can tell you why later, because it's the only time Josh actually froze all night.
Yep.
So the first house that you'll come across on the map, we'll talk about case files later because we looped back around, but the first one on the right-hand side would be Beetlejuice. This house would be higher on our list in terms of we liked it. One, we pretty much went deaf, though, because there's a whole bunch of, like, 11 or 12-year-olds that were just squealing at high-pitched noises the whole time. Like, I don't even think they were scary. They were just screaming to scream after a certain point. But Beetlejuice as a property is not particularly scary. So that house was just kind of...
It was cool.
Whatever. It was fine. Good production design.
Yeah. I wouldn't. I have no qualms against it. That opening swirling catwalk got me, but I think that was more because of my concussions than anything else. Like I'm serious. I don't think that room would have gotten me to get dizzy and like fall over like that like 5 years ago, because God, that was like halfway into that catwalk, I was like, all right, cool, I'm fine. Why is it moving? Oh my gosh! So yeah,
Yeah, Josh
but
almost
yeah,
tipped over.
Yeah, Beetlejuice was cool. It was a thing that happened. Yeah.
So then next to Beetlejuice is probably one of our top 3 houses of the year, but also gave us the best scares of the year, and that is Netflix's Haunting of Hill House. Now, Josh and I both love this series so much. It's one of our favorite Mike Flanagan projects to this day. Hush is still my favorite, but Hill House is definitely up there.
It's very good.
And so I've had both good runs and not so good runs with this house, so I didn't really know what to expect when we did it. We had a real good run of it. Also, I learned something I never knew. Josh is afraid of tall people or tall things.
Man,
Josh didn't know either.
I didn't know either until a 12-foot man stood in front of me out of nowhere. Oh, jeez, that was cool. I think that might be one of my favorite scares of the whole night, just because it was like, it's just so hard to explain. Like, it was one of those, oh, hi there. Oh, hi there. Oh, God. Like, I can't repeat what I said. But yeah.
So basically, like the tall man from Hill House, there's one earlier in the house, but he's maybe like 6'2", 6'3". He wasn't very particularly tall.
Like, okay.
You're like, oh, that's not very scary. And then I turn a couple times more, and there's this big dude that just steps around the corner.
But, yeah, 12 feet tall, like, God, and he like steps, like slams his cane down, and but I'm not gonna let you get away from in that house where the mask that pops out got you, even though you know that it pops out.
Because I was looking at the whole time.
Yeah.
That was not what got me, though. So I had already been in the house like 2 or 3 times before Josh even came to this event, because I go a couple times every year. And so I knew there was some scares with the bent neck lady. I think I get past all of it, and then like I get double whammied. So like basically, if you get scared once, the characters like have this like telepathic communication that they're like, oh, he's already on his toes for this. Get him. So I got hit like 3 times in a row, all in succession, in the Hill house. And then the mask comes out of nowhere. That's like the when in the show when Hugh and the oldest son are doing when they're doing stuff in the basement and they see like a face, so the face pops out at you in the house, and I was looking at the face the whole time going, okay, you gonna pop out at me or not? And as soon as I like turn to walk away, then it pops out. I'm like, really, dude?
That was the house with the Theo actor, and you're like, are you old enough to work here?
Was it Theo?
Yeah.
No, because I said Theo because I saw like adult Theo with the gloves, and Theo's my favorite character in the show. And then it was somebody little, because Universal does a fantastic job of casting, and so they did a good job with The Shining. They did a good job with Trick or Treat. They do a good job of finding, especially with Stranger Things, they do a good job of finding adults that just happen to look like kids. And so there's one. Yeah. It's like, you don't look like an adult. You look like a kid. So instead of being scared, I'm like, are you old enough to work here? That's not okay. So Hill House is probably one of our favorites of the year. That was a fantastic house. Gorgeous to look at. Like,
absolutely.
Even if you get scared easily, I'd say go through Hill House just for the visual production of it, because it follows the show so well, and it feels cool to see just the work that went into it.
The pregnant lady gag in that, where like I call it gag, but like I don't know what
that's the right word for it.
Okay. Like, cause like literally you turn the corner and you see a pregnant lady and she's showing you her belly, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then like a hand, like a small baby hand, like presses out on the skin, and you're like, oh,
okay.
Whoa.
I was looking for it this time, so I kind of knew how they did it. It's like, you know that age-old trick of when you hide your shirt in your hoodie and then you do the thing with your arms. That's essentially what the tummy trick was.
but it was still like in the moment, like super, like not
Oh yeah,
like scary, but I was like, how are you? That's so cool. And I think
disarming.
you and I had a lot of those moments of like, how are you pulling that off? That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Uh, and then keep going around the park. We get to puppet theater, captive audience. So
yay.
casts of Horror Nights. There's an A team and a B team. They'll have 45 minutes on, 45 minutes off. Then there's a thing called a cast change where the teams will be switching. I can't tell if we had a cast change or not for Puppet Theater because towards the tail end of that house, we missed a lot. Or not to the tail end. There's quite a few stretches of Puppet Theater that I feel like we were missing a lot. Not so much as another house that we'll talk about later that we feel like we missed the entire back third.
Yeah.
But Puppet Theater was okay. Now, to distinguish for those that have not gone to Horror Nights, all the houses are in different areas. Like, so some houses, like Hill House and Beetlejuice, are in big parade buildings where they hold parade floats for like Mardi Gras and whatever else. You've got some that are in really big production tents, and Puppet Theater was in a tent. Tents have significantly less space to work with.
Yes.
So that might have hurt it a little bit. However, there was one part that made me feel like I was not in a tent, and there's a part where you basically are in an open theater, and I thought that was really cool. That made the space feel a lot bigger than I'm sure it actually was. But Puppet Theater is definitely like in our lower third of the event, I think.
But like unlike a couple of the other things that are in the lower third, I don't think it's its own fault necessarily. It wasn't necessarily scary, but of the three in the bottom third of what we liked, it definitely had the strongest story.
Yeah, it was. I don't know, because we've got some other ones that we'll talk about later that I think had fantastic stories, and I know I've explained to you what the story of Puppet Theater was, and I don't know if you don't look into it yourself, if you can tell it just by like a first walkthrough. But I think also our opinion of Puppet Theater was a little tarnished because right before we went on Puppet Theater, we went on its neighbor, Wicked Growth, Realm of the Pumpkin, which is gonna go down in HHN history books as one of the best houses of all time. To me, it's my third ever. Like, I loved it that much. It's so good. So basically what it is, basically a picture of Spirit Halloween birthed a haunted house. It's just the spirit and essence of Halloween, both the holiday and the knockoff store, all just in one. Like, you basically enter in through a big, huge, like, pumpkin tunnel, a tunnel of pumpkins, and while you're going through it, you're just like, oh, this feels like Halloween. And so we did it first right when the park opened because I wanted to get there because I knew that was going to be one of the best. And also, when you go to the back of the park, there's not nearly as many people. They'll take their time getting to the back of the park. So the first time we did it, we liked it. The second time, when the sun goes down, that's one of those ones it's a night and day difference. But yeah, Josh, how did you see the differences between night and day for Pumpkin Lord?
Yeah, okay, I know specifically what you're saying, but in general, yes. There was like the way that the all the pumpkins glow on your way in. When there's a witch in there and she moves her hand across her spell book and you see a bunch of lights go off and it's super cool. Also, I could have sworn that Grim Reaper was an animatronic the first time we went through, because the second time we went through, he was jumping out at me and I was like, wait 2 seconds, you were not real last time. And you're like, no, he was real last time. I was like, okay, whatever. So yeah, it's really cool. Easily top 3. And like we'll go into more, I think, which ones we enjoyed the most. But yeah, it's easily one of the best ones at the park.
It just looks great. It's your traditional of like, you've got some scary pumpkins, you've got some scary skeletons, but also, if you're paying attention, it tells a pretty clear and concise story that you understand pretty quickly. It's a pretty good original story. And that's the other thing with HHN is they'll have a good balance of original concepts that they themselves, as a production make up, and then other ones like Hill House or Beetlejuice will be intellectual property that they turn into a house. And Pumpkin Lord was completely original, and now we've got a new icon. I need Wicked Growth to be a movie now, but not so much as we got something else that we really, really want to see turned into a movie. So we did Pumpkin Wicked Growth Realm of the Pumpkin first, then we did Puppet Theater, and then we did the other worst house of the year, Welcome to Scary Ohio. So in Halloween Horror Nights lore, Scary Ohio is a town that basically that all the weird stuff happens. So like whenever they have kind of random original houses, they'll tend to set it in Scary Ohio, so it kind of just builds on its own lore over time, which is a good concept. This did not have a clear story to it. This felt kind of like a greatest hits CD, but a very, very niche greatest hits CD. Like, I'm a pretty diehard Horror Nights fan, and there was a lot of that I did not understand in this house. I thought it was decent as a haunted house, but as a Horror Nights house, I thought it was kind of weak.
Yeah. I mean, I know nothing about Scary Ohio, and I was just kind of confused the whole time. Especially because, like, they open it with, I'll give them this. It's the only house that gives you a scare in line. I will give it
that has changed. I've gone 3 or 4 times now, and when I went with you, Josh, that was the first time that person has been in line. So maybe they were taking some guest feedback about it not being so well received. They put something at the beginning to kind of put you on your toes.
So that was cool. I was like, oh wow, yeah, because that kind of got both of us for you different reasons than me, obviously. But then you and I also hate. Like, the only thing that had it against it was that it had a chainsaw, and you and I are not scared of chainsaws.
We find them more annoying than scary.
Yes, correct. But that one got me, and it had the costume design was something very, very much Fallout-y. So I thought, because of that, I thought we were going into like a scary kind of Fallout house kind of thing, where they take 50s decor and make it scary. And it's like, all right, I'm down with that. But then like the first section of the house is something completely opposite of that. And like that kind of vibe doesn't show up in like the back like 3/4 of the house. It's just confusing. It was weird. Wasn't particularly scary.
A very loud house.
Yeah, it was just loud, and being loud just doesn't scare me.
Yeah, I'm used to it with Josh all the time, so it doesn't scare me either, really.
Rude.
It's
rude.
It's the thing, if it's a compilation house, like it's a best of, so it's not tied together particularly well. It can be done. There was a house a few years ago, one of my favorites, called Slaughter Cinema, but that's a whole bunch of hodgepodge of random ideas, but it's tied together that all these are fake B movies that are basically in one house. There's that narrative throughout it that makes it tie together a little bit better. Like Welcome to Scary, I think, was just...
But yeah, because like another house on the property does the exact same thing where it kind of does a best hits of and does it better.
But that has a narrative throughout it that's more cohesive.
Exactly. So, which I think actually was our next house.
I'm trying to think, because we took a detour for a while in the Wizarding World stuff, and Josh could not pick up his jaw off the floor for the longest time, and it was wonderful to watch, because Josh, up till this point, is not even the biggest Harry Potter fan, but he's just going, what's this? What's this? To quote a Halloween movie.
Short little tidbit then. Gringotts is amazing. I bought a wand, even though it was more money than the T-shirt that I saw that in the store. That I was like, $52 for a shirt? No way. $62 for a wand? Yes, please. Like, that was funny. But like, yeah, getting the hot butterbeer and a cold butterbeer, because there's obviously a clear winner in which one's better. I'll go hot butterbeer all the way. But yeah, no, cool experience. Wouldn't trade it for the world. I'd love to go back and actually see the other side of the Harry Potter stuff.
Oh, like I've said, the Hagrid ride that they opened in 2019 is one of the greatest rides I've ever been in my life. It's probably my favorite. It's so good. But then keep going around the park. We have one of their 2 nighttime shows. One of the 2 that we actually saw was, I'm trying to think, it was HHN Nightmare Fuel, which... don't know how to properly describe it, but it's an R-rated dance show with a lot of magic and a lot of fire. It's good to get off your feet for a little bit. Cool magic that I think the more you watch it, you kind of can figure out how it's done. But very, very cool fire effects for sure. We could definitely, like, we were not close by any stretch of the imagination, but you could feel the fire no matter where you're at.
Well, and I think too, even like with like a couple of the tricks I figured out as they did them, but like even that, like the amount of for the tricks to work, there was a level of smoothness that needed to happen for everything to go safely. And so it's like even with figuring out some of those magic tricks, I was like, oh wow, yeah, like one step out of line and somebody legitimately might die. So it was cool. It was a cool thing, and I think that was second to last of what we did at the that night,
because we were making our like double rounds of the stuff we wanted to do multiple times. So going back around, Josh rode the Mummy. That one,
which is great.
Mummy's great.
Wasn't ready for that.
Then no, that was. Oh, that was the launch. I forgot about that. Then you had HHN Icons, which is absolutely one of the better houses. I think that's probably one of our top 3. That's one, though, that it helps if you know some of the Horror Nights lore, but if you don't, I feel like you could still like this house, unlike Welcome to Scary, where you need to read the Wikipedia beforehand, more or less. But as someone that didn't know the lore going into it, HHN Icons, thoughts, Josh?
It's great. Good time. I mean, literally, I think the only introduction I got was when we were walking. We were in line. Hashtag go fast passes. And then
saved our night there,
dude. And you were just like, I was like, so what is this house? And you're like, it's just a collection of all the icons that have been a big deal over the years. I was like, all right, cool. That's all I needed. Boom. And like, I enjoyed the crap out of the house. It's great. Top 3 definitely. It was a lot of fun. I think the only thing that kind of puts a little bit of a on it for me was the kind of one of the things about the house was that somebody different is supposed to be at the end almost every time that you go through it, and we got the same person both times, which that's not a bad thing, but it was like, oh man,
we just had bad luck.
Yeah.
Also, once again, Josh is terrified by tall people because there's a dude named Fear who stepped out. And I love Fear's design. He's not my favorite character, but that scared the crap out of Josh. Also, there's a lot of air cannons this year in multiple houses, and so like obviously the characters can't touch you. Air is technically them not touching you, so I will never not be prepared. I'll never be prepared for air cannons, so I got blasted a couple times, and it's great, though.
That was also the first house of the night for us that was piping in smells. Because you go into the movie section of it, and they
Love it.
First of all, great section. The exploding light bulbs still got us every single time. Mainly because they're like really loud, but they're also out of nowhere. So it's the double whammy in there, but like they pipe in popcorn scent that entire section, and that just adds to it. It's just good times.
Little details.
It's just the little stuff.
Actually,
unlike another house that piped some smells in that the house ended up not mattering.
Yeah, I think the other one in Icons that always got us, primarily just because it was always loud, was they have the small Bloody Mary section, in which case they like drop some mirrors and just show some stuff. They don't have the rights to Bloody Mary, so they never outright state it as Bloody Mary. But like the mechanism that drops the windows is so loud and disarms you every single time that it ends up being effective, even if the scares that it reveals aren't that scary.
Yeah.
But Icons is great. It's got a good cohesive aesthetic. Like no matter whose icon you're in, like it's got this good uniform look to it. And I could say the same thing about Wicked Growth. Like it's got this great fall aesthetic to the point that when you finally get to the Pumpkin Lord, you're basically, spoiler, in this giant pumpkin, and it's wonderful. Right next to HHN Icons is another one of the spotty ones, Revenge of the Tooth Fairy. So I had been in this one before. There's 2 houses that had opened last year for what was called HHN Light, basically. Due to COVID, they couldn't have the event, but they opened 2 of the houses that they were going to have this year just for regular daytime park guests. No extra ticket required. You can go in as many times as you wanted. So I had seen this house and was curious to see if they changed anything. I didn't like it then. Don't like it now. It's not even so much because it's gruesome. It just wasn't scary. And also, I think we got a cast change because I feel like we didn't see a character in the last third of the house.
Which was which was really wild because like going through that section, I think if we had gotten people scared, like there was probably some pretty good scares that probably would have gotten us in that back third. But yeah, that back third had legitimately no one in it, like not even a staff member. So that was weird. That like an usher. So that it was just weird. And I think the only thing I liked about Tooth Fairy was
facade.
The opening facade. And like it was like the storybook telling, and it was cool. Like it was interesting to say the least. But other than that, wasn't particularly scary. The big thing it has going against it is you have a narration going overhead of telling you what basically the story is. But there's so much stuff in the house that's louder than the narration. And so it kind of gets muddled and you can't really hear. So there's certain sections, like you kind of get the general idea, but like there's definitely some story details in the narration that I heard that that's only in that back third that I think like I shouldn't have to have a narration that I have to listen to like I had a friend that had gone through it. She said she went through it and she got scared multiple times in that house because she was busy listening to the narration and then wasn't paying attention and then got boom, okay, which I get, but like that just didn't happen for us because it was too loud. Everything else was too loud to hear over the narration.
Which houses don't normally have a narration, and I actually don't mind it for this one in concept because it's supposed to be a twisted fairy tale, so of course it's like someone reading you the fairy tale, but you're right, it would be nice to be able to hear the narration, but houses are normally so loud that you can't hear it anyway. But yeah, we missed a lot. There was a certain section where you go through like shower curtains, and I had been through the house before, and so I knew there were some people there. I was ready for any characters, but nothing showed up during the shower curtain scenes. There's a lot of dead space, and it was just It also is a good time to bring up the safety precautions that they had for HHN this year. And so normally with HHN, they have like open holes for characters to jump out of, whatever else. Like you get pretty close to the characters. They just can't touch you, and you better not touch them or else I hate you and you're a horrible person. Like, come on. But this year they put more protection and safety measures, so like almost all characters, but some not. It was kind of weird. Were wearing masks, but the masks at least were tied into the costume. So if it was like a vampire, the lower half, the mask would be trying to match as best as it can. And other times it'd be behind a protective barrier. It did not bother me nearly as much as I was expecting. Like, they still get really close to you. They find interesting ways to engage with you. Some houses I think did a better job than others. Some you're very clearly there's a panel here. It was weirdly inconsistent in that way, I thought.
Yeah. And but some of the houses used the panels to their advantage, to where like you'd see the panel and you go, okay, and like the person would come up against it and be like, ooh, and you're like, aha, okay, cool, and then you turn the corner and that same person literally almost leaps out of a hole at you, and it's like, oh wow, okay, you got me again. Like some houses were really good about using it to their advantage, while others were very much like, well, this is a thing we have to do, okay.
Yeah.
So
then we get to, I think, what ended up being Josh's favorite house. So good, in fact, that we only did it once because he didn't want to tarnish the experience. The Bride of Frankenstein Lives. So this one is interesting because, to me, I don't know whether this counts as an original concept or an IP house, because it's using all the same characters from The Bride of Frankenstein, but it follows more or less exactly where the Bride of Frankenstein movie picks up, like where that ends. Of Frankenstein has destroyed the castle, and Josh, because it was your favorite facade of the night, explain to the people at home what the very first thing you see is in the Bride of Frankenstein Lives house.
So I think so. When we saw it, we're walking in, and all you see is, you know, the side of the castle that's been crumbled, and they pipe in like smoke and burning wood and stuff like that, and that's pretty cool. And it's not until a crying Bride of Frankenstein walks out and tries to lift the piece of wood that's, you know, that kind of like frames your entrance into the house. Do you notice that it's laying on top of Frankenstein and go, oh, she's trying, and like she's wailing, and it was, to me, the most, they didn't put a scare, you know, it wasn't like a scare before you get in the house, but it instantly was like, and I think is why I enjoyed the house so much. It had the clearest story. It made sense because they showed it to you right off the bat. Like, yo, like she is heartbroken that, you know, Frankenstein's dead. So, what are you gonna do? Gonna try to bring him back to life, and then the rest of the house is her process of trying to bring Frankenstein back to life, the love of her life.
Yeah, it's so good. While also having references to other things, like there's a creature from the Black Lagoon in a case.
Yeah.
She's basically kidnapping brides of Dracula to try and use their blood to bring back Frankenstein. It blends the new and the old very, very well. It's very much that traditional Gothic Universal Monsters aesthetic, while being a little more grunge and more modern than some other Universal stuff. It was a great house, especially our run, because I've been through it and had some not so good runs with it, where I missed a lot of stuff, or when I did it last year, I felt like there was more safety precautions, and so everything felt much more protected. Whereas the run that we had was really, really solid and really, really enjoyable. Was it that one that we had the good bungee scare? At least you got the good bungee scare?
Well, I don't know if she scared us, but there's a wire gag of one of the brides, like, is like kind of posed at the end of like a box, and you're like, oh, okay, cool, that's kind of scary, because you just passed a few statues of brides, and then all of a sudden she swings out of the box and then goes back in, and you're like, whoa, it's good, it's really good, because then right after that is when I got double back-to-back scares from two other brides that like came almost all the way out of their boxes, and it was like, whoa, nope. It was good. It's a very good house. At least it was, and I think because you hadn't really had a good run with it yet, was why I was like, when we had a really good run with it, I was like, you know, I don't want to give this an opportunity to just disappoint me. Because, I mean, like, we did Icons twice and Pumpkin twice. But
I feel like our first Icon was not very good.
No, because our second Icon was pretty good.
Yeah.
And then we did Pumpkin again because we wanted to see what it looked like at night, and it's so much better at night. Chef's kiss. I didn't want to give this one the opportunity to disappoint me, because I think before that we had just done like Tooth Fairy and Case Files, and it was like, oh, man.
Which, before we talk about Case Files, it reminds me of by the time we get to Bride, Josh is going first, because it was kind of funny for the first couple of houses. It's like, Josh, do you want to go first or me go first? You go first. I'm like, Josh is like riding my butt to like go faster, whatever else. And by the first, I think he's just kind of getting acclimated to houses. Yeah. And after a while, he's just like, okay, I'll go first. And I could just sit back and enjoy it a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, and like part of it, I think too, was I have had a history with down in Texas with my fight or flight reflex going only one direction. So like, literally the first couple houses was I had my cup in one hand and my other hand was in my pocket, because I wasn't going to give myself an opportunity to do that. And like I discovered, like, I think one of the early houses, you were behind me the whole time, and like leaving space. there was like a good like almost 4 feet between us, and like for whatever reason my senses were like, he's gone, somebody got him. Oh no, he's right there, he's gone again. Nope,
I think
no,
it was
no, he's
I
still
think
there.
it was Icons.
Yeah, I think so. But I was like, okay, I don't want that to happen. But then after a while, it just kind of became natural to like, I'll just go in. It's just a house. It's fine. Whatever. So.
So the last house on the Grand Circle tour is Case Files Unearthed, I believe, which actually is Heather's favorite house of the year so far, which is essentially a kid named Tim Foyle that you meet at the beginning of the house, finds these old detective novels by Boris Schuster, and he's uncovering this great mystery that involved this guy, and in doing so, things go very, very badly for him. So basically, you're going through all these individual case files from Boris Schuster. So you've got all kinds of weird stuff, like it's either like an alien or some monster, like a barbershop, or like an evil nightclub. There's a whole bunch of interesting ideas, but it is executed so much better than like Welcome to Scary, because it's got that through line of these are all short stories, and it comes full circle when you get to the end. You bring back Tim Foyle, you get one of the best scares for Josh, the gigantic devil head.
Dude, the weirdest stuff was getting me all night. Like this giant devil head that just kind of flies at you, and that's it. It's super cartoony. It doesn't look scary if you just look at it, but it was like, it got me. I don't know why. That's also the house where you were like on guard because of the werewolves that were in that back half.
You're
like, no, I know you're there. No.
I was also like ready because there's certain scares that we missed that I was kind of hoping for, because there's like a gigantic, almost like Yeti looking creature at one point that never popped out for our run. I'm going, oh, I wanted to see the Yeti, man. But it's a good house. It's tied together better than some other houses. It's not my favorite, but it's a good one. I think I had a bad run of it. I think you might have had a better one. I know for a fact that we were in the middle of a cast change, because there's certain points where there's like this big huge stage and there's no one there. So I'm going, oh, so we definitely missed that. But it's not bad. So there's 5 scare zones this year.
We have one more house that we haven't talked about.
Do we? What haven't we talked about?
Our least favorite house.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's how much we liked it. We just completely forgot about it.
No. I was, because you were like, with Case Files, you're like, and the last one on our tour, and I was like, I'm pretty sure we haven't talked about Texas Chainsaw Massacre yet. And so this is the only other house that really does a decent job of piping in smells, or not. I shouldn't say that. That tries to pump in smells, and in their facade to begin with, and it's like this barbecue smell. It's fine. I didn't like this house at all. Not like, it's just a bunch of houses. Like, I think you and I have already said that chainsaws aren't particularly scary for us, especially in haunted houses, because safety-wise, they would be absolutely stupid to put a blade on that thing. Like, both for us and for the actor. That's stupid to put a blade on it. So there's no real risk at all for anybody. So it's, unless they jump out real well and really get you.
There was one at the beginning of the house that didn't get us, but I was like, oh, I was not expecting someone to be that quick.
Yeah. So, but then after that, story-wise, I think is what you and I keep coming back to. The story wasn't very necessarily clear. It quickly became, I think, apparent to you and I that they were just going through random scenes. The issue is, Leatherface kept jumping out of the wrong sections of those scenes. Like where you go into his door that he's supposed to, the iconic doorway that he's supposed to jump out of. But like, that's your path that you're supposed to walk. It was not that good. We might have caught it on a cast change, maybe. But like, the other thing is, there was stuff from, like you were telling me, there's stuff from the other movies in it that's not in Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So it was a little confusing house-wise and content-wise, and just, it
just felt very, very long. So so Texas Chainsaw has been there before. If I remember correctly, it was at HHN 26, and it was in a tent house. Tent houses are fine. Like, Pumpkin Wicked Growth was pumpkin house, was a tent house. Tent houses can be great. They're just a little more claustrophobic. This one was in a sound stage, so they had a ton of space to work with. They had a lot of big sets. But the thing is, it felt really, really long, and it felt like we went for very long stretches without seeing any characters. And it just, frankly, was not scary. Like, this was by far our least favorite house of the entire event. I don't think we missed a lot. It was just, it felt dragged out more than it needed to be. Like, maybe switch Puppet Theater with this, because Puppet Theater, I think, could have utilized the space a little bit more, whereas Texas Chainsaws aren't scary, but put them in more of a claustrophobic setting, maybe. But there's just a lot of dead space at Texas Chainsaw that we just did not enjoy that house. We don't really care for the franchise, and I wanted to like it because it's one that going into this event, a lot of people were apprehensive or didn't seem to have any interest in, so I wanted to pull for it in the underdog sense, but it ended up just being as disappointing as I thought it was going to be.
Which sucks. You and I were trying to give it the benefit of the doubt, but it did not deliver on any point. Anyway, so scare zones.
Yeah, so there's 10 houses and there's 5 scare zones. You got 30 years, 30 fears. You've got Lights, Camera, Haction. You've got Gorewood Forest, Crypt TV, and Seek and Destroy. Let's just do a big lap around the park with Eddie's Lights, Camera, Haction. That's the only scare zone and the only place all night that Josh basically just froze. Like, we were out of the scare zone, is pitch black, so this zone is basically just like kind of a HHN best of zone of, like, you got Treeks and Foons, you've got Eddie, you've got Vamp 55, you got a whole bunch of random things all in this one zone. And so we make it through at night, totally fine. There's some cool, really awesome creature designs. We get through some fog, and Josh sees this little girl dancing, and just like a elephant seeing a mouse, he just freezes and does not move. And I'm going, really? That's what gets you.
Okay, look. So, for context, okay, before we went through this zone this time, because this was easily had to be like about midnight at this point. We had passed a couple girls that were like little girls,
not staff members,
that had just come as the China doll girls from China, right?
They're not China doll girls or Chinese girls. But they're just girls in white dresses, white and blue dresses.
The girls from The Shining. I forgot there's a term for it. Anyway. But yeah, it was like, oh, that's cool. And so when we're coming up on this little ghost girl, she's got her head lowered, and she's just twirling in a circle. And I was like, oh, look at that. That's adorable. And then she stopped and turned and looked straight at me. And I was like, that's what made me stop. Because I was like, oh, that's not a little girl. That's a little ghost. Oh, my gosh. And then you started pushing me. I was like, no. And then she started walking towards me.
Smell the blood in the water.
Like, no. Oh, no.
She could smell the fear. I'm like, oh, I'm playing into this. We're going to see how far this goes.
That was fun. That was really fun.
But as a whole, that's a good zone. Then go further up, you get Gorewood, which is the return of the Terror Queen from HHN, I believe, 20. This zone was good. You really can't mess up that zone. I think the trees and the atmosphere always help. I think that looks cool.
It looks way better at night,
not the best zone that area's ever had. I really liked Trick or Treat from 28, from 27, because the house is at 28. But yeah, that was good. There were some good boo holes for people to come out of. Really good costume design for Gorewood. Really like that one. It was just kind of fine.
Way better than the next one, which was, because I believe you go through there into Crypt TV. I think is the next.
Yeah, you go to Crypt TV, it was fine, but it's basically a glorified. It's a
photo op.
Yeah, it's a glorified photo op. It's not bad. A lot of people aren't familiar with Crypt TV. I've seen some of the shorts, so I was kind of familiar with some of the people in it, but it was fine. Then you get Seek and Destroy, which can either be really entertaining or really I've seen a lot of divided opinions on Seek and Destroy. What'd you think, Josh?
It's a thing that happens. I don't think it's necessarily scary, but it's not necessarily like stress free to go through either, because everybody's walking through and the only reason I wasn't particularly nervous about anything is they all look like Cobra Commander, and it's just not scary for me at all. But yeah, it's a cool thing that happens. I did like we didn't explore it that much, but the group on the stage is very interactive, and that's I think something that the other zones didn't have, which
Yeah.
was really really cool. And the voice, I didn't know that the voice on the screen is basically like there's obviously somebody with a mic, but it interacts with people. It just doesn't. It's hard sometimes because you never know if it's necessarily talking to you unless you're being a part of the little thing that's like right there in front of the stage where they're asking people to join them.
Yeah. So there's fun opportunities in Seek and Destroy for there to be interaction. And then lastly is a really, really small zone, but still kind of fun. 30 Years, 30 Fears, which is just kind of like random characters from some random original concepts from Horror Nights. There's some fun to be had there. Some really, really cool designs. I always like the hollowed up pumpkin guy from 28 that's on stilts.
Mm-hmm.
Bones has some cool designs, but yeah, scare zones were fun. Let's wrap things up with saying basically our favorite scares from the event overall. Like, there's not going to be one from every house, obviously, but like, Josh, what were some of your favorite scares, favorite moments from the event?
Getting scared by the tall guy, that was great. A great moment because like we were also right behind a group of RIP people, and so they got a good kick out of it, which was fun. It's always fun to like interact with people after the house. I thought at least. So that scare was pretty good. The Bride of Frankenstein was pretty good. Like just that whole house in general, I really enjoyed. The scares that we got there were pretty good. But I think revisiting the Pumpkin King at the end of the night was definitely, I think, the highlight of the night. It's. I think I'll allow it to be the number one spot for me. Um, it's like it's so hard to. I posted some pictures to my Instagram of the facade that you walk into, but like it's just so good. It's so good at night. It definitely, and I think this is something I said to you throughout the night was that all the house, like the traditional scary house, like haunted house kind of template, really tends to be scare the client and go, ha ha, look at you, you're stupid for being scared. Which that's kind of like paraphrasing a little bit on that, but like on that whole idea. But that's generally it's mean-spirited scares. It's haha, gotcha. Where this is more, come experience this story with us, and we'll scare you along the way.
Yeah.
And it's more of, and because you're just pumping people through, it's more of a community experience. And so like everything was just more fun than like a traditional haunted house that you would find put on by some guys with $100 or something like that. You know what I mean? So it's just, I think overall it was just such a great experience to see. Like the production value is mind blowing.
Oh yeah.
When it comes to these, like some of the stuff they pull off, even though like I can totally figure out pretty easy how they did it, but like, God, that's so smart and just yeah. I think my favorite. If I'm going to say my favorite houses, I think top three are Pumpkin King, Bride of Frankenstein, and then Haunting of Hill House. Haunting of Hill House is so good. And I don't think you necessarily have to see the show for it to be pretty scary either, for it to get you. Yeah, the house, having the whole front of the house as the facade is just chef's kiss. So good. To the point where they have the windows changing color when people go in, and like the extra scare guy that was not there the first time you went in the opening, like they seem to add, now that I think of it, there's a few scare people that get you right at the beginning of some of the facades. Which is really really cool,
which is always a nice touch.
Yeah.
But yeah, We had a great time. Horror Nights is always one of my favorite events. I'm glad we were able to do this together because it's one of those, it's just hard to explain to people what makes it so special. Yeah, you're going to get scared, but it's going to be a fun time doing it. Like, everyone else around you is going to be scared at some point or another too, even if you've been like me and you've gone a whole bunch of times. But still a ton of fun. And so by the end of the week, I'm hoping, if not sometime next week, I'll finish up. We have a little highlight reel of our night from Horror Nights that Josh filmed stuff on his way down. I filmed some stuff at the event itself. So we'll have that to you by the end of the week, hopefully, to show you guys our night at Horror Nights and how much fun we had with that. But as always, if you like what you hear and you want to hear more, subscribe to us on whatever audio platform you're listening to us on, whether it's iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or YouTube. And if you haven't already subscribed to us on YouTube, check out the shirts on TeePublic. And as always, stay sharp, movie guys and gals.